investigators, opening a cold case after almost 19 years is a long shot. But with a suspect, a new lead, and major advances in DNA, it's not impossible. This is the story of Patricia McCray, a murder that shocked the entire Lawton community and has since gone cold. June 10th, 1991.
And I believe it was a Monday morning.
Co-workers of Patricia McCray report to work at the Great Plains Vocht in Lawton, Oklahoma. McCray, a computer instructor, does not show up to her morning classes.
Something that was very unheard of. She always was on time and always at work, so her co-workers felt that that was kind of odd.
Worried, they check on her house on the 7,000 block of Dogwood Lane in the northwest part of town.
He noticed a kicked-in door and phone wires cut, and he said, "This is not something we need to go," so they backed off and notified police.
What they found was a brutal crime scene.
She put up a fight.
Signs of a struggle in the bedroom, and the body of 34-year-old Patricia McCray slumped over the bathtub face first with multiple stab wounds.
It was a very angry person that did this murder, somebody very vicious.
And the victim, an innocent woman, well loved by her friends and family.
She was a school teacher and involved in her church and involved in the community.
We have a single woman who is a teacher and living by herself. It struck a nerve with everybody in the city.
Investigators believe the suspect may have slipped through the alley and into these canals without ever being seen. Still, they canvass the fearful neighborhood.
It happened in a quiet residential neighborhood. People aren't looking out their window for the next drug deal to go down. They're not looking out their window for a drive-by shooting. This was a different neighborhood that normally didn't have things like this happen.
This week, Crime Stoppers is spotlighting on the homicide of Miss Patricia McCray. Miss McCray suffered a brutal attack in her home during the weekend of June the 8th. She was discovered by co-workers on the morning of June the 10th.
Despite all the media coverage and talk amongst the community, the tips were few and far between. They interviewed suspects, but as time passed, catching Patty's killer became trickier.
If you can catch your suspect, if you can even have a conversation, face-to-face conversation with your suspect in the first 48 hours, you'll see his carotid artery pumping, you'll see his shirt jumping out because his adrenaline's flowing. But after that, he's developed alibis, he's gotten rid of evidence, he's had time to slow down his thought process and cover his tracks. You won't have nearly the success rate 2 weeks later as you will 2 days later.
Meanwhile, friends and family mourned the loss of Patty, wondering if they'd ever see justice. Investigators' leads slowly faded, and the murder of Patty McCray went cold. Now almost 19 years have passed since that violent crime, her killer never found.
Well, I think in Lawton's history, the murder of Patty McCray is probably one of the most infamous unsolved homicides that there is.
But investigators never gave up hope, and for good reason. A recent development.
We have some information that has kind of opened a door.
We got together with Chief Ronnie Smith and decided that it might be in the best interest of this particular case if we looked at it with some fresh eyes.
Richard Goss with the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigations and Roberto Peralta with the Lawton Police Department teamed up to reopen the cold case murder, and they believe the key is in DNA evidence.
There's been so much advancement that we did not have 20 years ago.
In particular, the ability to separate an intermingling of blood from two individuals. And in this case, they believe the killer may have injured himself during the crime.
And we think it's going to be very rewarding in this particular case once we get those final results back.
The original crime scene investigator, Ted Mason, passed away in 2008. Both Peralta and Goss say he collected hundreds of items that normally weren't collected at that time.
But he did have the foresight to collect that evidence, and we've had it on property and it's being analyzed today as we speak.
The evidence Mason collected in 1991 has now been resubmitted for testing, but it takes months, even years, and thousands of dollars.
That has been an ongoing process for about a year now.
And once they have some concrete evidence, they can further pursue their new lead and suspect.
We feel that it's going to be very beneficial to have the DNA results in hand before we actually embark on some of these outside leads.
Leads that the original investigators hope will bring justice to the McRae family and help them get the killer where he belongs, behind bars.
Of course, no detective wants to have an unsolved case on his watch, and this is one of those that I think about pretty often.
This particular one I think about a lot because I was involved in working with the parents, working with her family as we did, as we spotlighted this, and I tell you, it was just, this was a real tough one.
And it's a tough one for the newest investigators as well, who hope to clear the case during their careers and not leave it to the next detective.
There's somebody out there has some information on what happened to Patty McRae. Somebody knows something, however minute they may think it may be. You want to make sure that justice is served out for Patty McRae and she's never forgotten.
If you know anything about the murder of Patricia McRae, please call police. Crime Stoppers is still offering a $1,000 reward for any information leading to charges being filed. Your knowledge could help bring closure to the McRae family and peace of mind they've been searching for almost 19 years.